Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridhari, Gopi Jana Vallabha, Giridhari, Yashodanandana, Yashodanandana, Vrajana Ranjana, Yamuna Tira, Vanachari, Yamuna Tira, Vanachari, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Jai Radha Madhava, Kunj Bihari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Krishna, dear devotees. We'll be discussing the glories of devotional service today. This is in Canto 3, Chapter 25.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स, हरि बोल। आप सभी का स्वागत है आज की श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में। जीव तत्व प्रभु जी श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लासेस जो हम सभी के बेनिफिट के लिए देते हैं, इनके जो लेसन्स शेयर करते हैं ये चैप्टर लेवल पर होते हैं। तो क्योंकि इन चैप्टर्स में बहुत ज़्यादा वर्सेस होती हैं, बहुत ही एक्सटेंसिव पर्पट्स होते हैं, बहुत ही इम्पॉर्टेंट लेसन्स होते हैं, तो जीव तत्व प्रभु जी हमारे सबके बेनिफिट के लिए ये जो क्लासेस करते हैं इनमें सब एसेंस का सार हमारे साथ शेयर करते हैं। तो आप ध्यान से इसका श्रवण करिए और अगर आपके कुछ क्वेश्चंस हैं आप टुवर्ड्स द एंड ऑफ द क्लास अपने क्वेश्चंस कमेंट्स में लिख सकते हैं। आई विल रीड योर क्वेश्चंस टू जीव तत्व प्रभु जी। हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, प्लीज गो ahead with the class.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us for Mangalacharan prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet. Shratam Swakatha Krishna Punya Shamana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Bhadrani Vidunoti Suhatsatam Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavate Ruttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Nashtaki. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please join us in the recitation of the first verse. Devi, have you shared the verse?
Dear viewers, I will be sharing the verse Prabhuji is doing. Hare Krishna, let me share.
Hare Krishna. So we'll wait while we share the verse so that you can join us in the recitation of this verse. So again, this is the time the second wave of COVID is there, and there is a lot of fear, loss, anxiety, grief, and no one wants to die, right? So we'll be discussing some of those aspects and how we can attain the shelter, attain the fearlessness, attain the freedom from all this anxiety, loss, and these tough times. How can we find solace in this chapter? Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of this first verse. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, Verse 1. Shanak Uvacha Kapilastatva Sankyata Bhagwan Atma Mayaya Jata Swayam Ajah Sakshad Atma Pragyat Te Nram Atma Pragyat Nidam. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada. Shri Shanak said, although he is unborn, the Supreme Personality of Godhead took birth as Kapil Muni by his internal potency. He descended to disseminate transcendental knowledge for the benefit of the whole human race. Hare Krishna. Please join us in the recitation of Guru Pranati so that we can get the blessings of the Acharyas and the Vaishnavas. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurube Namaha Mukham Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripa Tadaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, Shanak Rishi is asking, and many times people ask, like we were discussing till this in the previous chapter, conversation between Maitreya Muni and Mahatma Vidur. And now all of a sudden Shanak Rishi is asking this question because Sutta Goswami at Naimisharanya, he is narrating this conversation between Maitreya Muni and Mahatma Vidur. So again, that conversation is being recited. And Sutta Goswami heard it from Shukdev Goswami, who was earlier, you know, reciting the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam to Maharaj Parikshit at the bank of Ganges, which is Yamuna Tat in Delhi, so Hastinapur. And there were great sages, including his own father. Srila Vyasdev was there, Narad Muni the, Ashishta, Devala, Asita, and Vashishta and Vishwamitra. बहुत सारे great sages were gathered at this place. So इसमें conversation बता रहे हैं Sutta Goswami between Maitreya Muni and महात्मा विदुर, कि महात्मा विदुर कैसे उनसे प्रभास पे डिस्कस कर रहे हैं, इंक्वायर कर रहे हैं, स्पिरिचुअल इंक्वायरी, और वो क्यों कर रहे हैं? सो दैट यू नो अगेन वी गेट द बेनिफिट. सो इस चैप्टर का नाम है ग्लोरीज ऑफ डिवोशनल सर्विस. एंड देयर इज अ ब्यूटीफुल वर्स जो कि हम लोग पहले कवर कर चुके हैं. अनर्थोपश्मं साक्षात् भक्ति योगम अधोक्षजे लोकस्य जानन्तो विद्वांस चक्रे सात्वत संहिताम. तो ये वर्स रिलेट करता है डिवोशनल सर्विस को with all the kind of tribulations that we are facing in life, and the only constant in life we see is change. And आज के समय पे तो हम लोग जिस तरह से we have become victim of so much advertisement. Even on the COVID vaccination, there's so much misdirection is being given, and people, the moment they get COVID, they immediately understand that they're in the jaw of death. And those who are able to recover from COVID, they basically say, see, we are the heroes, we are the survivors. While all that time, they were in the, जब COVID था, तो उस समय they were like panicking, and everyone around them is panicking, not just them. And then the moment they recover, they feel like, oh, so we can win over this thing. But then suddenly the second wave comes and it strikes them again, and the same panic is going on. So this is the nature of this material world. और हम इसको कैसे समझें, इस करेक्टरिस्टिक को, जो कि इस वर्स में बहुत ही अच्छे से बताया है. अनर्थोपश्मं साक्षात् भक्ति योगम अधोक्षजे. So to be able to overcome all these frivolous, superfluous feelings in this material world, sometimes feeling that I am the lord of everything that I pervade, कि मैं सबका मालिक हूँ, मेरा जो मन में आ रहा है वही हो रहा है, सब कुछ मेरे हिसाब से चलना चाहिए. These kind of feelings which arise, because of the weakness of our heart. Sometimes people, they try to feel good, लेकिन ये feel good के चक्कर में they forget the reality. तो ऐसे में these kind of situations में, these are all superfluous things. Even sometimes the very happenings around us, जो हमारे आगे पीछे जो different situations आ रही हैं, वो भी superfluous होती हैं, because आध्यात्मिक, these are the anxieties. Many times 99.99% anxieties are just created by mind, not by Adi Bhautik, which is from other living entities, or Adi Devik, which is the natural disturbances. They are very minimum compared to the ones that are created by one's own mind. And उसका क्या solution है ऐसे superfluous reason का? Bhakti Yoga Madhoshyaje, that one should take to the devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Adhokshaje. And Lokasya Jananto. But people, general populace, they don't know this. Chakre Vishdvam Satvat Samhitam. That's why Srila Vyasdev, Sri Krishna Dvayapanya Vyasdev, he compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. And again, sometimes people, they become so inimical towards such, which is the king of all literatures, right? Vaishnavanam yatha Shambhu, Devanam Achyuto yatha, Nimnanam yatha Ganga, and Granthanam idam tatha. So of all the Granthas, of all the scriptures, the supreme scripture, the king of all scripture is Srimad Bhagavatam. And people, they just, get disturbed saying, oh, Vedas are separate and Srimad Bhagavatam is a Purana, because it's Bhagavad Purana. But Srimad Bhagavatam was written by Srila Vyasdev at the maturity of his life, when he was still feeling frustrated, still feeling morose, after having written the Vedas, after having written the Puranas. And at that time, Devashi Narad appeared to him and he said that because you have not glorified the Lord, you have, given through the Vedas, given the ways to people to enjoy in this life, without keeping the focus that actually the true pleasure, true happiness comes when we engage in devotional service. So that's why Srila Vyasdev, under the instruction of Srila Narad, right, Devashi Narad, he wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Srimad Bhagavatam is also his commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. So if something is the conclusion of all the Vedas, how could it be different from Vedas? Rather, it is the supreme knowledge that we are getting, the topmost essence that we are getting from the Vedas. So again, Acharyas have revealed us. So yes, Vedas are all good. Yet at the same time, we see with the coming of Kali age, when Lord Buddha, who is an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, when he appeared, he basically derided Vedas, not that because Vedas are wrong, their application was wrong. People were committing, they were slaughtering animals, they were creating havoc on this planet Earth in the name of Vedas. So Vedas are all good, right? Just like knife, if properly used, is all good. In the hand of a doctor, you are happy that yes, a doctor is using the knife so that he can, cure you of the disease. Now, once the doctor is curing you of the disease, do you say to the doctor, don't cut me to cure me? Somehow just, from outside, just fix it. The doctor cannot do that. So no one wants to go through pain. But in the hand of doctor, everyone is actually thinking, yes, this is for my benefit. But the same knife, it happens to be in the hand of a thug. It can cause havoc, right? And thug is right in front of you, asking you to give him. When doctor asks you, you basically say, take all the wealth in the world that I have, but keep me safe, right? Even Alexander the Great, when he was inflicted with malaria across Sindhu River. Now this is very interesting. Sometimes people even get attached to words. कि जैसे सिंधु था, so the north people जो कि उसके पूर्व में रहते थे, वो उत्तर में रहते थे जो, they could not say Sindhu, so they called it Hind river. We called it Sindh river, but they called it Hind river. So people who lived to the south, दक्षिण में जो रहते थे सिंध रिवर के, उनको वो लोग बोलने लगे हिंदू. So Hindu itself is an foreign term. We are all Sanatanis. We are all following the eternal religion as established in the Shastras, as established. We learn from Bhagavad Gita, from Srimad Bhagavatam. So we are all Sanatanis. Yet at the same time, people start calling us Hindu. So they would say, okay, we are Hindu. So these same personalities who say we are Hindu priests, we are Hindu people, we are Hindu Brahmanam, they get offended when they hear the word demigod in Srimad Bhagavatam. Why? Just because it's a Greek word. Well, Hindu itself is a foreign word. We are all Sanatanis. We follow Sanatan Dharma. But then, this is superfluous. People look at the external aspects of things without realizing that we are internal. We are the spirit soul. Jivera Sarup Hoya Krishna Nityadas. So the first lesson is, Vedas are all good. But do we have the qualification to understand Vedas? So by the mercy of Lord Krishna, by the mercy of the Acharyas, all that knowledge of Vedas have been extracted out and presented. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the fruit, the ripened fruit of this Kalpataru, of this desire tree, of this Vedic knowledge. What does Veda means? Knowledge. And the best knowledge that we get is in Bhagavad Gita, in Srimad Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna himself says, Rajvidya Rajgoyam Pavitram Idam Uttamam Pratyakshvavagmam Dharmam Susukham Kartum Avyayam. That this knowledge, the knowledge of devotional service, to engage in the service of the Lord, is the Rajvidya, king of knowledge. Rajgoyam, secret of all secrets. Pavitram, it is all purifying. So our existence is purified. Idam Uttamam, it is the best knowledge. Pratyakshvavagmam Dharmam. So we can directly perceive it. We can experience the fearlessness that we get. We can feel the awakening that we have, right? When the sun rises, then everything is visible and we can see things properly. But on an Amavasya night where there's complete darkness and you have no lights, no artificial lights, which is actually a reflection of sunlight, right? So sunlight has been captured into various elements and we are using that in the form of electricity to light up the lamps. And so we are able to see at night. So without the source of sun giving us light, the very source, in darkness we are all disturbed. The eyes become useless. So again, in this conditioned life, we have these four defects. Human nature, we make mistakes, right? We fall prey to all these advertisements. We fall prey not just to the advertisements, our senses are imperfect, right? Without the sun, without the light, we cannot see. These eyes cannot see. So in darkness, our hands become our eyes. We try to, feel things, what's around that. Oh, this is a book. Okay, this is, a table. So if we start looking from, our hands become our eyes in that case. And there are many living creatures that we know of. They don't have eyes, but they use the sense of touch, the sense of hearing the vibrations, to assess if there is something around them, right? They use sound, like we see bats, right? Chimgadar जो होता है वो आवाज निकलता है, and then when the sound comes back, it creates a picture of what is its in front of it, so it can identify which way to go and which way not to go. So again, the senses are limited, and they are imperfect actually, and we have propensity to be deluded. We fall prey to all these advertisers. Sometimes the government itself is the advertiser, saying that you take this COVID vaccination once, just once, and you will never have COVID. Well, then people started getting they started falling sick, and then they said, wait a minute, after vaccination we can fall sick. Then the doctor said, yeah, that was advertisement. Actually, you can still fall sick, but you won't die. Now, have they done the research to know that, to make sure that you don't die? ऐसा तो नहीं किया है. Means they don't have any proofs, but yes, they say you are prepared. You are prepared for what? So that you can be in a better state. But that fear of death will always be there. So again, and then people are thinking, oh, if this is what is going to cause death. So of course there is anxiety, there is fearfulness, there is all kind of losses, right? And all kind of tribulations that people are going through, and 90% of them are created by our own mind, right? The anxiety, the grief that arises, and nobody wants to die. So how is devotional service, the glories of devotional service that we are covering, how is it so glorious that one can become fearless? So again, it is all in our mind. So again, first I want to also identify something as an example, the cases where people say, okay, we have lived through COVID, and then they get second COVID, and they understand that actually it is very fearful state to fall prey to these scenarios. There was a lady, and she wanted to sell her car. So this is, I'm telling you by an example. So she talks to her friend, अपने दोस्त से बात करती है, बोलती है कि मेरे को अपनी कार बेचनी है. तो उसकी फ्रेंड बोलती है, ठीक है, कार बेच दो, क्यों इतना परेशान क्यों हो रहे हो? So why are you so worried? So she says, actually my car, it has 200,000 miles on it. No one will buy a car that has been driven 200,000 miles. So now the friend, she says, oh, actually you are in luck. My husband is a mechanic, and he can revert your speedometer to say that it's only 50,000 miles. तो old lady बोलती है, wow, miss the other lady, जो जिसके पास कार थी, जो अपनी कार बेचना चाहती थी. She says, this is great. Yeah, when can I come and see your husband so that he will turn the speedometer back, the reading to 50,000 miles. So the lady says, yes, you can come tomorrow. So she goes, get it fixed. So after next week, after a week, when she sees her friend, this lady, our mechanic's wife, she says, oh, have you sold your car? The other lady says, no. The car owner says, no, I have not sold it. She says, why? Because the lady says it only has 50,000 miles on it. You get it? So people are like, okay, this is what is going on. When it happens to us, we are all in agony. And then when we are able to somehow overcome it by Lord's mercy, then we become proud, right? While we are sick, we are in anxiety, we are in fear. But when we are able to overcome it, then people become very proud. This is the nature of this world. People, they're cheating themselves, right? So there is propensity to cheat. That's the fourth defect that we should understand. And people are constantly cheating themselves. So human is there. We make mistakes all the time. We have imperfect senses. We have propensity to be deluded, and there is propensity to cheat. So these four defects are conditional life के reflection है. And so we should be, taking to devotional service, because by devotional service we understand when we are engaged in devotional service, right? What happens? amazing things happen. We realize that, first of all, I'm not this body. We are spirit. So, Jivera Surupoya Krishna Nityadas. And so, we engage in devotional service currently. And if, there are so many pandemics, like these kind of situations, they are constantly happening. And Aristotle has said in the past, like, the only constant is change. So there will always be, some change. And all doctors, they know this, that no matter how much research they perform, there will always be one disease that will be very tough to overcome, right? At, sometimes it was cancer, then it became AIDS, and now this pandemic is there. There will always be, Mother Nature will always have an upper hand. Every doctor knows this. Some deny it, yes. But then you ask them, can they overcome death? They will say no, because that is something they have not found a solution for. And they won't be able to find a solution, at least not, in these current times. But Srila Prabhupada, he says that yes, he can overcome death by awakening us from this, dark world which is full of ignorance, and bring us to the light where we engage in devotional service. So we understand that we are not this body. This is a car. We are the right driver of the car. So we are actually eternal servant. We are knocker of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jivera Sarupoya Krishna Nityadas. So that is first realization that we get. That okay. And we understand, yes, by nature, I am Brahman, Aham Brahmasmi. But is that sufficient that I am Brahman? No, that is not sufficient. Because we have to understand how one acts. When someone is in Brahman, then what does the person do? When you go to an office and you say, I want to see a project manager, and you see a project manager, then the first thing is, okay, you're a project manager, but what do you do as a project manager? That's what defines a person as a project manager. If someone is a CEO of a company, okay, the person says, I am a CEO. And what do you do? And then the funny thing is, sometimes such person says, this is what I actually experienced in my field also, says, I take care of my customer. No, you don't really take care of your customer. You're the CEO of the company. CEO never takes care of a customer. CEO takes care of the people who take care of the people who take care of the people who actually take care of the customer. So you're responsible for the people. CIO, you ask them, okay, what do you do? Oh, I am making sure that the information is completely transparent in the organization. No, you don't take care of that. You provide an infrastructure that people use to be able to enable that, and you focus on driving the mission, not the vision. So that's another aspect. People forget this. They say, oh, we are doing this. So again, it's very important that if we are saying, Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman, what do we do? Well, Jivera Surupaya Krishna Nityadas. We are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So now what do? We should engage in devotional service. What does a servant do? Servant serves. And how does one serve? With devotion. One serves with love. One serves with gratitude. That you are my Supreme Father, you are my Supreme Mother, Radharani. I want to engage in your devotional service. And then another shock that people get it is, okay, we are ready to serve, but then it's a privilege to get devotional service. For that, you have to pray, you have to beg, you have to cry out, you have to call out to the Lordship. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this prayer we have to chant with all our heart, with all our, true feeling ourselves lowly that yes, I have for some reason fallen in this material world. इस भौतिक जगत में हम लोग आ गए हैं. And we are all suffering. But to become fearless, we have to engage in devotional service. And when we engage in devotional service, we become fearless, right? And yes, so we engage in devotional service now in this life. And then after this life, when we give up this body, because body is nashwa, you cannot stay with the body forever. So body will change. So this external body, right, this material body, it is going, you have to relinquish it one day. So we all have to do that. So at that time, we will get another body. So again, we are serving here as devotees, and if we continue to serve here as devotees, then we will get spiritual body. And now even death, the same event, is different for a devotee and a non-devotee, right? People who are enjoying material senses, who are conditioned of thinking, I'm this body. They are in constant anxiety, constant fear. Why? Because they are thinking, I'm this body. And Devahuti, as Maitreya Muni continues to reveal, that Devahuti asks Kapil Dev, but her inquiry. So after Kadamuni has gone to the forest, we heard in the previous chapter, and he has taken to Vanaprastha and then sannyas. And finally he returns back home by engaging in devotional service. And this is Satyuga, so by performing Dhyan Yoga, for tens of thousands of years, one can attain perfection. Now we don't have that life, right? It's such a long time in this life. So that's why in this age it is Sankirtan Yajna. By taking to Sankirtan Yajna, we can attain perfection in this life. So now Devahuti, she is, with her son, Kapil Dev. All her 9 daughters have been married to the 9 sages, and they have left the home. So now Devahuti, remembering the words of Lord Brahma, she remembers that Lord Brahma said that, Karda Muni, you will have a son who will be none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Karda Muni had already heard this blessing from Lord himself, who appeared to him on Garud, standing on Garud in the sky. He said, after your 9 daughters, I myself will advent as your son, and I will spread this knowledge, right? Sankhya Yoga. So remembering the words of Lord Brahma, because she was not there when Karda Muni heard from the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So she is inquiring from her son, who is leisurely sitting, just waiting for his mother to make this inquiry. And what does she say? She says, my dear son, I have been cheated by this material energy. How is she cheated by this material energy? Because she thought that she is this body, right? Now again, this is a personality we are hearing from, who happens to have already perfected in Ashtanga Yoga, right? All the Kundalini chakras and all those chakras and all the eightfold mystic yoga practices, she has already perfected that. She has the mystic siddhis, and she has even shared the mystic siddhis her husband received by engaging in devotional service. She is asking that, my dear son, I have been cheated by this material energy, thinking I am this body, right? Thinking that I am born and this is my body, so I am this body, and things associated with this body. So I and mine, aham mameti. So these two aspects, when people think, then they actually are cheated. So this material world is a place of cheater and cheated, and it starts at the very time we take birth. Because the very moment we take birth, everyone looks at us externally and addressing the body and giving us various kind of upadhis. He is a son, he is a boy, he is a girl, and now he is a student and so forth, and he is a scholar, and then he is an engineer or doctor. But we realize that actually the true designation belongs to the soul. And when the body acts in a specific manner, the soul gets designation, and it only basically gets 2 levels of designation. Either we are acting as a devotee, which is our true nature, or we are in illusion, we are in darkness. So either we are in light or we are in darkness. So when we are in light, then we are serving the Lord. When we are in darkness, we are serving the senses. Simple, very simple. And senses are like fire. And if you try to satisfy the senses, that's like putting clarified butter, ghee on fire. What happens when you pour ghee on fire? It goes strong, right? It doesn't die. When you give milk to the snake, it makes the venom strong in the snake. So the senses have also been called just like snakes. But when we engage our senses in the service of the master of the senses, Lord Rishikesha, then our senses are fully satisfied. So Devahuti is saying that, my dear son, I have been cheated, yet at the same time I have you, who will, like an axe, will cut down this tree, this illusion of mine. And so she is requesting. So again, we should understand that this particular material world is a place of cheater and the cheated, and the first cheating happens to us when we think that I am this body, and we have been cheated by Maya. Maya is what? That which is not. So delusion, thinking that I am this body, is Maya. And understanding that I am a spirit soul, Jivera Sarupoya Krishna Nityadas, that I am an eternal servant of the Lord, that is awakening. That is our awakening from this darkness. But then what do you do by awakening? You don't fall back in Maya, so you engage in Lord's devotional service. And there are so many examples. Srila Prabhupada used to say that when there's World War II was going on, and so there were so many, and when he was living in Calcutta, so many of his friends, they were running around. Oh, the attack is happening, the planes are here, they're dropping bombshells. And Srila Prabhupada just said, well, I'm engaged in my devotional service and I'm not running anywhere. I'm going to stay here with my family. And he engaged himself and his family in devotional service, and he continued to live peacefully. So he, remembering those times, he used to give instructions to his disciples, and we hear such instructions. So sometimes, so many times when there are, earthquakes are happening, various kind of calamities, and we see even weak children or, old men, even under the debris of like multi-story building, they are alive under there, right? So they are saved. जबकि क्या होता है, people who are living in affluent houses, who are getting the very best facilities, they die, right? So ये material nature का business है, that if you have done something bad in the past, that comes around. But then the delusion that people are in is, continue to do what they have been doing and expecting different results. Einstein says that is the definition of insanity. Continue to do the same thing again and again, expecting different result. अरे भैया, अब आप आम का पेड़ बोओगे तो फिर आपको आम ही मिलेंगे, संतरे तो नहीं मिल सकते, केले तो बिल्कुल नहीं मिल सकते, क्योंकि आम आम है, केले केले हैं. केले लेने के लिए आपको केले का पेड़ लगाना पड़ेगा. तो you have to as you sow, so shall you reap. These are facts of life. So we have to engage in devotional service. And just because you have the best medicine, you have the best doctor, there is no guarantee that you will be alive. And this is a fact. So again, the Acharyas have again and again revealed. And we can, what we engage in defines us. Not we are, appearing to be, that does not define us. So when we engage in devotional service, when we engage in Shravanam, hearing the glories of the Lord, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, it enables us. So Devahuti is asking in this way, that please, my dear son, cut down this tree of this material entanglement that is, covering me up, this darkness. Can you remove this darkness? And hearing this, Kapil Dev, who is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead, he smiles, he understands. He was waiting for this moment so that he can impart the Sankhya Yoga. Lord comes mainly for three reasons. Paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanataya sambhavami yuge yuge. So paritranaya sadhunam, to protect the devotees, vinashaya cha dushkritam, to annihilate the miscreants, dharma sansthapanataya. So actually the main aspect is to establish the principles of religion, so that we can all go back home, back to God, and we can all become free of the anxieties. We can all realize that the true loss is not having used our precious time, invaluable time, in serving the Lord and pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. That is the true loss. तो हमें अपना लाभ को देखना चाहिए, इसलिए हमें भक्ति योग में engage होना चाहिए. So now Kapil Dev, son of Devahuti and Kardam Muni, he is smiling. He is none other than Supreme Personality of Godhead. And he starts narrating this, And now sometimes it is also very important, before we come, there is an important lesson that has been covered in the purport. Srila Prabhupada says that, you want to engage in devotional service. When we want to engage in devotional service, we have to pray it out and not have to worry about which varna we are in and so forth. That is again another kind of delusion. We should understand, yes, no matter where we are, we should be able to engage in devotional service. Yet at the same time, Srila Prabhupada says that in the mode of goodness, one has the best facilities. Understand this, there is a difference. Right? We have all heard the story of a turtle, a tortoise and a hare, a rabbit. When they are in the race, rabbit, just because it was very fast, goes to sleep. While the turtle, even though it was slow, it continues. So one of the teaching that came up is slow and steady wins the race. That, we get this lesson. That the turtle continued to engage wherever it was. So even if we may be influenced by some other modes, even the mode of goodness, which is enlightening, is still it's providing us the facilities. That's the only difference. But engagement in devotional service transcends us above the three modes. Transcend is it rises up above the three modes of material nature. तो हम जो तीन गुण हैं जो कि गुण also means ropes, उनसे छूट के हम ऊपर उठ जाते हैं. So when we transcend, because we are engaging in devotional service, we are at that platform completely become fearless when we take shelter of the Lord. And for this, Kapil Dev is describing that in this material world, when one engages in devotional service, right, we all, transcend the three modes of material nature. And sometimes when we say to transcend the three modes of material nature, Acharyas have revealed in this Kali age that one has to take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So then people say, okay, by engagement in devotional service, you transcend the three modes of material nature, and then there is difference of facilities. And then why chanting of the holy name? So we hear from Acharyas, we hear from the scriptures, bona fide scriptures, that how by engaging in devotional service we become fearless, and we experience this. It is pratyakshva vagvam dharma. So we have a direct perception, we experience it in our life. Then no matter what happens, if we engage in devotional service now, if we have to give up this body, what do we do after this life? We engage in devotional service back home, back to Godhead, right? So the constant engagement is in our true constitutional position. Jivera swarup hoya Krishna nityada swarup. So again, dharma. When we talk about religion, so again, dharma doesn't really mean religion. It is actually an inherent quality of something. A servant serves. There's a very nice example given. Just like fire, it gives warmth. That is its nature. If you have a fire that doesn't warm you, would you call it fire? No. If there is fire that doesn't give you light, would you call it fire? No. Sun means there is sunshine, and sunshine means that there is light. So you can feel the warmth as well as light. So that is the dharma of fire. That's the dharma of, pavakaha. Pavakaha is also translated in as electricity. So when electricity transforms into light, we get the experience that yes, we can see things. If there is light but we can't see things, then it's not really light. So we have to look things with proper perspective. Sugar is sweet. That's the dharma of sugar, right? So dharma of sugar is that it is sweet. If there is sugar but it's not sweet, will you call it sugar? No, because it's not following its dharma. Salt is salty, right? नमकीन होता है salt. So अगर salt कोई आपको बेचे तो पहले आप उसको टेस्ट करोगे, अगर उसमें नमकीन टेस्ट ही नहीं है, will you call it salt? No, you will not call it salt. Similarly, we Jivera Sarup Hoya Krishna Nityada. So what is our true dharma? That we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna. So we are eternal servant. Now interestingly, since we are eternal servant of Lord Shri Krishna, either we will serve him directly by taking to devotional service, or we serve him indirectly by serving material energy, which is this senses, the body, and everything that's related to the body, our kutumb, right? So aham mameti. And that is delusion. Why fall into delusion which is in darkness? And Lord Krishna says in Chaturshloki Bhagavatam, he is revealing that, the Supreme Personality of Godhead reveals that everything, anything that one thinks is not in relationship with me, that is Maya. जो भी मुझसे रिलेटेड नहीं है, ऐसा कोई भी विचार जो है किसी भी वस्तु के बारे में, किसी चीज के बारे में, अगर ऐसा विचार है तो दैट इज माया, दैट इज इल्यूशन, दैट इज भूल गया, ही हैज फॉरगॉटन हिज ओन ट्रू सेल्फ एंड ही हैज फॉरगॉटन मी. तो ऐसे में जो भूल जाता है ना, वो झूल जाता है. बेसिकली द पर्सन इज कॉन्स्टेंटली गोइंग थ्रू दिस फेरिस व्हील, and only by the mercy of a spiritual master, a bona fide spiritual master, one can be awakened. So इसलिए बाहर से जगाना पड़ता है. और साधु लोग इसीलिए they wander from place to preach the glories of the Lord, so that people can awaken themselves from this nidra, right? From this slumber. It's not just sleep, it's slumber, deep sleep. So we should all try to wake up. And even the mode of goodness, we have seen that the facilities are different. Mode of passion, the facilities are less. Mode of ignorance, facilities are almost gone. So in mode of goodness, it is said just like a fire spark comes and it falls on a dry grass. The dry grass can immediately catch the fire. So there is, great facility that one can get transcendental knowledge. One can awaken and be very active. So one can be like that rabbit who can run very fast, right? So that is a facility. But what one does with that facility is something else. So if we engage all our facilities in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, then we are doing it rightly. Now in the mode of passion, what's the example? That's like this, instead of falling on a dry grass, it actually has fallen on a ground. So after some time, its brightness, its warmth, that is covered. So that is in the mode of passion, because the facilities have been there, but they cause delusion. So in mode of passion, one is engaged in these fruitive activities. Just like on a Ferris wheel, or sometimes we see that mouse, when they kept in a cage, they're running on this wheel. They're not going anywhere. The wheel is just turning, and they're just continuing to work. And finally, as the time finishes, the rat or the mice, the mouse, it dies. Mice is a plural. Hare Krishna. And so ऐसे में हम लोग सोच रहे हैं कि fruitive activities पे लगे हुए हैं, right? So they wander in this material world in different yonis. And then what is in the mode of ignorance? Mode of ignorance is like the spark has fallen on a wet grass. So, in contact with water, what happens? Immediately the consciousness of the spark, that is lost. So that is the state. And that is basically said that in this material world, everyone is in this ocean of nascence, right? Everyone is in darkness. So we should all awaken, and whatever facilities we have, we should engage in devotional service, because that would enable us. And this devotional service, by taking it to devotional service, what we want to do is we want to meditate constantly on the name, form, activities, pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And Kapil Dev says that when one gives up this material association, gives up this material delusion, and understands that I am a living entity, such a person is a sadhu, and a devotee in this way constantly engages in devotional service. So first is he feels complete satisfaction through his hearing and in his heart. So Shravanam, right? When we chant the holy name enters through our ears, fully satisfying our senses, and finally into our heart and purifies our heart, cleanses our cheto darpanamajanam. And that's why the acharyas, the devotees, they sing Bhajahu re mana Shri Nandanandana Bhaya Charana Ravindare. Bhajahu re mana Shri Nandanandana Bhaya Charana Ravindare. Durlabha manava janam sasange, Durlabha manava janam sasange, Tarahu re bhava sindhure, Tarahu re bhava sindhure. So we can cross over this ocean of nascence just by engaging in devotional service. That is the essence. Whatever facilities we have, we should use all our facilities, all our abilities in engaging in devotional service, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And then Kapil Dev, once again, the purpose, Srila Prabhupada says that the devotees, when they engage in devotional service, Lord is merciful. But the devotees are empowered by the Lord, that sometimes Lord enables them to become more powerful than He Himself. Now this is very shocking when people hear. How can somebody become more powerful than Lord, right? Because in conditioned life, and this is where he is saying that by mystic realizations. So mystic realization, what does it mean when Lord Kapil Dev is saying? And Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in his commentary identifies that mystic realization is everyone is thinking that they will become happy by getting something externally. But the happiness is within. right? When we engage in devotional service, all our senses are happy. We are in transcendental bliss. But people don't know this. They think that if I get this thing, so they run after something, right? And we already talked about this. That it's like running after a mirage in the desert. जैसे रेगिस्तान में लगता है ना कि वहाँ पे एक ओएसिस है, कहाँ पानी है, उसके पीछे जैसे जानवर भागते रहते हैं, आखिरी में अपना दम तोड़ देते हैं. So that's what happens to people. They go to pavarga, pa, pha, ba, bha, ma, right? Pa is for parishram. They can constantly engage in, different kind of endeavors, fruitive endeavors, because they want the fruits through their endeavor. And then, शीत आतप वातावरीषण ये दिन यामिनी जागिरे विफल से विनु कृपण दुर्जना चपल सुख लाभ लागिरे. So they are working for miserly people. Viphala sevanu kripana durjana. People who are kripan, who are miser, they are serving those people. And they are durjan, people who are miscreants. They are serving this kind of people because they don't give the full 100 for 100. No, they are giving you 1 for 100. So people, when they see after so much labor, what I got was like 1%, 1% of what I was supposed to be getting, then they become bewildered, right? So they parishram, then because of parishram, pha is for fena, the foaming of, bubbling in the mouth happens. And then comes bewilderment, vibhrati, and then because of bewilderment, they become fearful, bhaya, right? Bha is for bhaya, and finally they attain ma. Ma is for mrityu, they die. Such is the miserable life. Why do you want to engage in fruitive activities? Yes, sometimes people say that, but you have to take care of a family. Yes, devotees also take care of the families, but they engage in devotional service mainly, and all other activities they perform as an offering to Krishna, but not over endeavoring, right? Kabir Das ji, he says, okay, इतना दीजिए जाके कुटुंब समाए और घर का भी कोई पर्सन भूखा ना रहे और कोई साधु भी भूखा ना जाए. So हम लोगों को समझ में आता है that we have to just have enough. By the mercy of the Lord, everything will fall in place. But we have to do our service with sincerity, with ईमानदारी के साथ, honesty that is needed. And so we will be free of all this kind of bhaya, all this kind of fearful state anxieties, and engage in devotional service because that is our main business, right? Sometimes people say, when they are looking at what is the main business of these restaurant chains and so many other places. Actually, there's a very nice story I was hearing, and sometimes, we devotees, we learn lessons, to share with others. People say, okay, what is the main business of McDonald's and Burger King? Everyone thinks fast food, right? But that's not their main business. Their main business is real estate. They want to create these fast food restaurants in all the important places in all over the world, right? If you see in New York, it's outrageous that every 2 blocks there is a McDonald's, right? So again, they create, the main business is not fast food. The main business is real estate, that they are capturing so much real estate all over the place. And if someone wants to open this, franchise of McDonald's, the first thing is they have to give up their land. So that is because that is their main business. Other things are just frivolous, they're superfluous. Just like this material energy, cheater and the cheated. So people think that they are being cheated by this material energy, but what is this material energy you are claiming is cheating you? It is you only, because you are thinking you are this body, right? So this body is me. That is cheating. And who is going through this cheating? We ourselves are cheating ourselves. Material energy provides us this human form, which is a rare birth, so that we can cross over this ocean of nations. Coming back to the topic, where we were saying that Lord, Acharya's revealed, He empowers us that as devotees we can even become more powerful than Lord. Right? Srila Prabhupada said that, even though Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had this prediction that every town and village, every street, there will be chanting of His holy name. Yet at the same time, he said that Lord wanted His generals, like Srila Prabhupada, we all understand, His general to spread this, propagate this Krishna consciousness all around the world. So Lord wants His devotees to be glorified, so he becomes happy, and devotees want to glorify the Lord so that they become happy, other devotees become happy. And this is where we see the example of Yashoda Mai, binding Krishna. She is binding Krishna, and every time she was trying to bind Lord Krishna, it was falling short by two fingers. Two fingers. What does that mean? First finger is endeavor. We have to make a constant endeavor. And then the second is Lord's causeless mercy. So Lord's causeless mercy is needed so that we can attain perfection. So Lord, He is happy. And Mother Yashoda is able to bind Krishna. And Queen Kunti in her prayers is singing that I am so surprised that you are running in fear from this gopi. She is referring to Yashoda Mai. While the fear personified is afraid of you. And this is bewildering to me. So again, we understand. And then we hear these amazing glories and amazing teachings, but we don't take to it. And we get deluded, we cheat ourselves basically. It's not material energy. Material energy has provided this body which is perfect boat so that we can cross over this ocean of nations, but we have to row the boat, right? Which is engaging in devotional service, going the right direction, not in the opposite direction towards, further darkness. We should be heading towards life. And tamsoma jyotirgamaya. So again, in Buddhism, we hear that from the darkness I want to head to the light. So this is again and again from various religions, all of them are saying the same thing, that we have to engage in devotional service. And then we are talking about my religion, your religion. What religion? Dharma. Dharma of living at it is Jivera Sarup Hoya Krishna Nityadas. We have to engage in devotional service, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And today happens to be Hanuman Jayanti, right? So appearance day of Lord Hanuman. And Lord Hanuman himself has shown that Ram se bada Ram ka naam. So again, there are multiple versions that have been described where, Lord Hanuman, how he proves it. Once it just so happened that king of Kashi, right? So this is, Mahabharat was still Yuddha Parva. So again, uske baad mein Ramayan jo tha, Ramayan was till that point. After Lord returns back to Ayodhya, there were many incidents happening. So this is one of those incidents. And this incident is all about like Devashi Narad trying to show that how merciful, Nam Prabhu is. So he basically tells King of Kashi not to give respect to Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra is, he gets upset very quickly. And so, not just like Durvasa Muni. Durvasa Muni is, of course, he's an expansion of Lord Shiva. And Lord Shiva is Vaishnava Nam Yatha Shambhu. Yet at the same time, we understand that Durvasa Muni is so exalted that even when he goes to Vrindavan, Radharani herself was serving him personally. And she gets this blessing from Durvasa Muni that she would not have to make the same preparations twice. She will always make new preparations. They will always be amazingly tasteful. And so she makes amazing. So when Yashodamai comes to know that Radharani has this blessing from Durvasa Muni, she calls Radharani so that she cooks. Radharani cooks for who? None other than Lord Krishna, Hallalla, Kanha. So Durvasa Muni is also very exalted personalities. We are in such a fallen state that sometimes we even try to offend such Vaishnavas. And even Durvasa Muni, Amrish Maharaj's story should not be said in arrogance, but rather in a humble mood, understanding how, Amrish Maharaj, he was so surrendered, he was so surrendered, so that he did not eat anything till Durvasa Muni returned back after a year. And he was waiting so that he can do Atithi Satkar. Because Atithi Bhagwan ka roop hota hai. He really shows us. But sometimes people in delusion, they even offend such great personalities. So here, Kashi Raj, he is told by Devashi Narad not to give respect. So Kashi Raj gives respects to everyone, but he skips Vishwamitra. Now Vishwamitra is upset and he goes to his Shishya. And who's his Shishya? The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Ram. And he says, you should punish Kashi Raj. So Lord Ram, he gives this vachan, that before sunset, his head will be at your feet. Now, Raghupati Reet Sada Chali Ai, Prana Jai Par Vachana Na Jai. So here, Lord Ramchandra has said that, before sunset, by sunset, his head will be at your feet. So at this particular time, Kashi Raj comes to know, the king of Kashi, he comes to know, Lord Ram, he is going to kill me. And he is offering my head at the feet of Vishwamitra to pacify Vishwamitra. He runs to Devashi Narad. He says, now what do? I just followed your instruction, right? And because of following your instruction, I'm in such a tough state. So here, Devashi Narad, he says that you should take shelter of Anjana, because Hanumanji's mother, Anjana, she is very merciful. You should just hold on to her feet, asking for protection, and she would provide you protection. So again, he goes, the king, Kashi Raj, he goes and he holds to the feet of Anjana Devi, mother of Lord Hanuman, and says, please protect me, please protect me. And she finally says, okay, I will give you protection. And then he says, and she inquires, like, do you want protection? What is the kind of situation you are in? He says, actually, Lord Ram is going to kill me. And that time, she calls for Hanuman. And Hanuman comes. When he comes, she says, you have to protect this Kashi Raj. He says, okay. Now he has said okay to his mother. And then he says, when he comes to know, Hanumanji comes to know, kya re, Kashi Raj ko मारने वाले कोई और नहीं, भगवान राम है. बोलते ये तो मेरे प्रभु हैं. But he meditates on it. So this is again, in anxiety, we are so much in fearful state that, we may fall apart if we don't have this sanyam, right? Titikshavaha karunika. So again, we'll be hearing some more about those aspects. So he is a true sadhu. So again, he is understanding that he has to carry out the order of his mother. So he goes to Lord Ram. And he says, my dear Lord Ram, please provide me a boon. And now Lord Ram is happy, right? Hanuman never asked for anything. He never asked for anything. And Hanuman says that just give me the boon that I will be able to protect. So he says, whatever you want, Hanuman, I'll give it to you. So Hanumanji says to Lord Ram that whoever is chanting your name, I should be able to protect him and nothing should be able to, harm them. And Lord Ram. So again, there are two versions. At one place, Hanumanji says that I should be able to protect you, your name should be able to protect someone, should not be harmed. And so Ramji says yes. And on another occasion, he says that if someone is chanting your name, then he should not be harmed by anyone, including you. So Lord Ram says yes. So Lord Ram says, but then he says, but you have asked for someone else. Ask for yourself. I know you keep chanting my name all the time, nothing will harm you. But, ask for something else. But Lord Ram, even after he has given this sanction, Hanumanji, he is happy and he says, this is enough for me, my dear Lord. And Siyapati Ramachandra ki jai, by singing his glories, he walks out. Now, of all the singers, we have also covered that Hanumanji is the best singer, right? A bhakta, as his eternal, servant of Lord Ramchandra. So here, he goes and asks King Kashi to continuously chant Lord Ram's name, by stepping in Saryu river up to knee deep, constantly chant the name of Lord Ram, constantly. So now the king is constantly chanting the holy name, Ram, 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 Ram. He's constantly, chanting. So at that time, Lord Ramchandra comes to kill King of Kashi, and he says that Hanuman is protecting this king of Kashi. So Lord Ramchandra says, Hanuman, get away. I have to teach him, this miscreant, a lesson. So Hanumanji, he says, my dear Lord, you gave me the boon that I can protect whoever is chanting your name. He's chanting your name, so I'll protect. Lord, Hanuman is also chanting the name. So Lord Ram, when he throws he had actually taken out 3 arrows. He throws his arrow, the arrow circumambulates Hanuman and comes back to Lord Ram. Says, my dear Lord Ram, he's chanting your name. You yourself gave the boon. How can I hurt? Second arrow, the same thing. Third arrow. So now Lord Ram is bewildered. And so devotees, we sing these glories. Ram se bada Ram ka naam. Jahan pe Bhagwan Ram, he is, against his own name, the name, Naam, Prabhu, is more merciful. When a demon would attack in Vrindavan, he would not even get chance to introduce himself. He will be simply killed by Krishna, the Vishnu and Krishna would kill him. But here, An offender, even if he chants the holy name, sometimes jokingly, sometimes sarcastically, he gets the benefit because the name is absolute, the Lord is absolute. So whether one is getting a blessing or whether one is getting punishment, both are getting purified, both are going back home, back to Godhead. So these are the glories. And at the sunset, now the sunset is arriving, Lord Ramchandra says to Hanuman, Hanuman, I gave this boon, I gave this vachan, right? I gave this statement, I make the statement that by sunset, Kashi Raja's head would be at Vishwamit's feet. So Hanuman says, that easy, my dear Lord, that can be done. And he asks Kashi Raj to just place his feet at Vishwamit's feet. So Vishwamitra comes, seeing that the devotee and the Lord are in fight. So he's already feeling anxiety because he knows if Lord Ram is able to kill Hanuman, who's protecting Kashiraj, Lord Ram will leave his body. So he would immediately give up his very body. So he is, of course, Lord is spiritual. His body and soul are non-different. So he is feeling the anxiety. So even Vishwamitra, a Brahma Rishi is feeling anxiety, seeing the fight between Lord Ramchandra and Hanumanji. Hanumanji says, this is easy. And he asks Kashiraj. Kashiraj immediately goes and places his head at the lotus feet of Vishwamitra, sage Vishwamitra. And Vishwamitra is satisfied that yes. And Lord Ram is satisfied that the statement, Raghupati Rita Sada Chale Aayi, Prana Jaye Par Vachana Na Jaye. तो भगवान राम ने जो वचन दिया था कि सूर्यास्त से पहले आप विश्वामित्र, सेज विश्वामित्र के चरणों में काशी राज का सिर होगा, तो वो भी हो गया. Everyone is happy. But there is one thing that has been proven. Just by calling out, Siyapati Ramachandra ki jai, Lord Hanuman could cross over the ocean to go to Lanka. He could annihilate so many miscreants in Lanka. And here he was able to save Kashi Raj from the wrath of none other than Lord Ramchandra himself. And this is where the glories are there. And now here, this mystic realization that Kapil Dev is talking about is basically people in delusion. They are running, chasing in darkness, while devotees are in full light. They are engaging in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. And so Lord Krishna takes care of everything. And this is very nicely explained by this beautiful short story, where wind, Pavan, and a cloud, Badal, they were having this argument, who is stronger. So the wind says, I'm more stronger. The cloud says, well, I don't think you are stronger. Well, the wind says, okay, you see this man, he was climbing, wearing a coat in early morning. He's climbing the hill. Whoever can take off his coat, जो भी उसका coat उतार देगा, that person is stronger. Badal says, okay. The cloud says, okay. So wind starts, flowing very strongly. The more strongly the wind flows, the man is clutching onto his coat. He's holding onto his coat. He's not letting it go. And what's going on? After some time, wind says, well, if I can't take it off, the cloud has no potency to take it off. What can it do? So it says, now you try. I have tried. Okay, I could not make him take off his coat. All the cloud does is, it gets out of the way so that the sun shines. The man looks at the sun. It's kind of like afternoon. It's getting hot. And he immediately takes off his coat. Now, did the cloud remove the coat? Yes, because it moved away. And it took shelter of a greater personality, the sun. So similarly, we devotees, we simply take the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna, who is the supreme personality of Godhead. And he can make anything happen, whatever he desires. Not a blade of grass moves without his will. So this is where devotees, they fully surrender at the will of the Lord. Whatever happens, Lord, whatever you desire, let that happen. So even something that looks so fearful to a non-devotee, like death, is completely different. So the experiences are completely different. So like death is like a cat. And if the cat is holding its kitten in its mouth, right? Lord Krishna says, time I am the devourer of all things. So time is an external energy of Lord Shri Krishna. Yet at the same time, it is also referred that you cannot separate the energy and the energetic. So again, as time he appears. So people who don't want to bow down when they are alive, at the time of death, they bow down to death. And they are in fearful state. But devotees are like the kittens. So in the, when a cat picks up the kitten is resting very nicely. Whatever, mother cat will not harm. So there is a concept of thunder and lightning happening at the same time. As we heard after the maidservant, who was constantly meditating, manmana, he was constantly meditating on the Lord's name, form, activities, pastime. When he, in this mood, gave up his body, lightning and thunder happens. So lightning happens before, thunder is the sound that happens afterwards, right? So we all understand that lightning travels faster than the sound. So here, he immediately got the spiritual body and appeared as Devashi Narad. So the maidservant's boy, who was actually a Gandharva, great Gandharva, we have talked about this, who was cursed by the demigods, and he was born as a maidservant boy, as a Shudra boy. And he immediately got transcendental body as Devashi Narad. While the thunder of the body and the giving up of body, the pain of the body happened afterwards. So you don't experience the pain as devotee. Yet at the same time, a non-devotee, his state is like one who's not engaged in devotional service, who's thinking I'm this body and engaged in serving the body and things related to the body, mameti, right? All the relatives, all the objects, and all the belongings of a person. For that person, the death appears like a mouse. What mouse experiences when it's in the jaws of a cat. It knows that its death is near and it is fearful. And because the next life is also very fearful. So again, we should engage in devotional service now. That is the calling. In Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter after chapter, this has been identified. And Acharya has revealed that this is the mystic realization. That just by taking to devotional service, just by pleasing Lord Shri Krishna, just by engaging our Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Pada Sevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedam, 9 process of devotional service, we can make our life blissful, we can make our life sublime, we can be free of all kind of fears, we can be free of all kind of anxieties. So he is basically, Lord Kapil Dev is telling his mother Devahuti, right? So this is a son, Lord appeared as her son, and she says that after many, many births of, pious activities, of punyas, that she is able to get the Supreme Personality of Godhead as her son. And that she is asking her son to give her this fearlessness to her. So she is engaged in Shravanam, which is the most potent form of devotional service. And she is becoming fearless, as Kapil Dev is identifying. He is saying that the yoga system that relates to the relation between the soul and the super soul, Paramatma, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? It is for our ultimate benefit. So we should seek our ultimate benefit and not degenerate us, not make ourselves fall from such a great enlightened realization. So knowledge is one aspect, right? Knowing something, but realizing it requires us to practice it and understand it. And when proper understanding, we realize something. So that is experience. Experience causes us to realize something. So he is identifying what are the qualities of a sadhu, one who is constantly surrendered at the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna, engaging in devotional service. And this particular verse is a very famous verse. Titikshavaha karunika surhida sarva dehinam ajat shatravaha shanta sadhva sadhu bhushanaha. Titikshavaha, one who is tolerant, right? So one who is tolerant of the external conditions and is constantly engaging in devotional service. Karunika, who is merciful, who is compassionate towards all living entities. And Surhida Sarvadehinam. Surhida, so Lord Krishna in peace formula in 5.29, he is saying Surhida Sarva Bhutanam, that all the living entities. So he is talking about spiritual as well as material living entities. Surhida Sarvadehinam. So we living entities always require either a material body or a spiritual body. We require a body on our own. We have limited capabilities, right? So we need to be conscious, and the consciousness will be on the body when we will be in a body. So in the material world, we get a material body, and spiritual we get spiritual body under the shelter of Yogamaya, here Mahamaya. So we need a body to be able to function, to engage in pleasing Lord Shri Krishna. So a sadhu is one who is Surhida Sarvadehinam. All the embodied living beings, all living beings who have body, they are Sruhida, they are friends of all living entities, right? Ajah Shatravaha. Ajah Shatrava is one who does not consider anyone as his enemy. So one whose enemies are not known, that person is a sadhu. And Shantaha, he is very peaceful. He is free of all kind of anxieties because he is at a Brahma Bhuta stage. Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samah sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhakti labhate param. So one who is at the Brahma Bhuta stage does not lament or aspire for anything, because these are the two things that cause anxieties: past, lamenting on the past, or aspiring in the future. And samah sarveshu bhuteshu, just like Surya Sarvadehi now. So he is looking at all living entities with equal vision, understanding that every living entity has super soul in their heart and they are very dear to the Lord. So he is very compassionate towards the living entities. He is very friendly towards all the living entities. And he is very shant, he is very peaceful. And he is sadhva. He is abiding by all the injunctions of the scriptures. So again, previously we saw how Devahuti was referred to as Sadhvi, as a faithful, as a chaste wife. Sadhva, one who is faithful to the very mission of life. Jivera Suruphoya Krishna Nityadas. So he is constantly engaged in devotional service, in pleasing the Lord, in a favorable mood. Anukulena Krishna Anushilam, as Lord desires, one has to serve. So again, we can be in different situations, tough situations or not so tough situations. Whatever situations, it's only superfluous to us. We have to engage in devotional service. We have to take to the chanting of the holy names. We have to follow the 4 regulative principles, because they provide us a platform where we are not performing sins, right? No meat eating, no intoxication, no illicit sex, no gambling, because all these things are sinful where Kali resides, right? Kali is the next birth of Duryodhan, who is, imbued with all impious qualities, sinful characteristics. So we don't want to live a sinful life, so that's why we follow 4 regulative principles and we take to the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And we follow the injunctions of the Shastra, bona fide scriptures, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitamrita. And such a person is sadhva, and sadhu bhushanaha, and all his characteristics are sublime. So he is embodied of all the sublime characteristics, and that is the abhushan of a Vaishnava. Vaishnava etiquettes, that's why I have been identified time and again. Of them, humility and tolerance are the topmost, because this verse, as we see, also started with Titikshva Karunika. So Titikshva is tolerance. So one has to be tolerant. We should understand that not everything will be as per our desire, but whatever happens to us, we should forget that, but rather engage in devotion service, then everything will become favorable. When Lord Krishna says to Arjun, Kaun te aprati janihi name bhakta pranshati, my dear Arjun, son of Kunti, declare it boldly that my devotee shall not perish. Sometimes people misunderstand this. They think that the devotee shall never die. Yes, there is no death for the soul, right? And it is the soul we are worried about. The body will be, it will deteriorate. Jan mitru jara vyadhi dukha doshanu darshanam. So this is the nature of this material world, that, birth, death, old age and disease, they will keep coming and they will keep going. Nothing stays. Even the material happiness, one who is free from material happiness, when people hear that Kapil Dev is saying, they immediately stop reading further. But then when somebody reveals the purport, Srila Prabhupada says, that Kapil Dev is revealing that the material happiness always comes with material distress. And material happiness is like flickering, it's like a spark in the dark. While spiritual happiness is like standing in sunshine. If you want to be in light, then be in sunshine. Why try to seek like a spark in the dark, right? And flickering happiness, it is actually cheating ourselves by running after such material happiness, because immediately distress arises. Sometimes people say, see, I am happy by having a car. So now what do you have to do? They say, but I have to take care of the car. That is just like, in this material world, nobody wants to do any endeavor. There is this famous story. People teach this to the kindergarten kids or elementary school. In the elementary school, this is taught, that this man, he had a hen, right? And every day the hen would lay a golden egg, right? सोने का अंडा देने वाली मुर्गी थी उसके पास. हर सुबह वो एक सोने का अंडा देती थी. So this man, he thinks, that maybe he should cut off this hen to get all the eggs at the same time, because he did not understand. But actually, if as it has been explained, this particular story, he liked to receive the hen, the lower part of the hen from which the egg was coming out. He did not like the face part because he has to feed the egg, feed the hen, right? He has to give it various kind of foodstuffs so that the hen would continue. So he, in his greed, cuts off the hen in half and sees that there is no egg in those golden eggs that he was looking for are not there. That is the mood. People in this material world want to seek material happiness, but they don't want to do any labor. They just want everything to be taken care of. And if something happens without their desire, so again, this thought of material happiness and distress is also superfluous, because that is being built by our own thought. We have forgotten our true consciousness, that Jivera Surupaya Krishna. Our true happiness, the transcendental bliss, lies in serving Lord Shri Krishna. And there is nothing in this material world we can take shelter of except for the lotus feet of Lord Shri Krishna that can save us from all kind of miseries, from all kind of fears, from all kind of anxieties. So that's why I request my dear devotees, my dear friends, that please engage in devotional service, which simply starts with the chanting of the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And as Kapil Dev reveals in his teachings of Sankhya Yoga, that by engaging in devotional service, our subtle body, which is actually preparing us for the next birth in this material life, it dissolves, and we are able to go back home, back to Godhead, to further engage in devotional service, to have this loving exchange where we are in complete transcendental bliss. And today is Hanuman Jayanti. Happy Hanuman Jayanti to all. Hanuman Jayanti ki jai. Pavana Sutta Hanuman ki jai. Who is always singing the glories of Lord Shri Krishna and Lord Ramchandra, who is appearing as Lord Ramchandra and Sita Mata. Now there is one thing I said, that Hanuman is the best singer. So once the best singer of Gandharvas, I'm forgetting his name, but anyway, and Devashi Narad. So they had this competition, who's a better singer. So both were singing, but nobody could decide. None of the heavenly residents could decide who's a better singer. So they went to Vaikuntha to Lord Vishnu, and they said, my dear Lord, please make a decision, who's a better singer. So Lord Vishnu says, okay, why don't you sit? And he asked them to keep the tambura, right, the veena, on a stone, which is like the platform on which you keep it. And he says to his Dwarpal, why don't you go and get Hanuman? And so Hanumanji comes, and Hanumanji is singing Lord's glories, Siyapati Ramachandra ki jai. He's singing his glories constantly. And Lord Vishnu is smiling as Hanuman is singing the glories of the Lordship. And at that time, he says, Hanuman, I'm very happy, now you may go. So Hanumanji, he pays obeisances and leaves. At that time, Devashi Narad and the Gandharva singer, he is confused. So Lord Vishnu at that time says, whoever is able to free their veena, right, from the stone, the platform. What had happened when Hanumanji was singing, the stone started melting. So what had happened was, the stones on which they had placed their veenas, they started melting, and they went in, and the stone was covering it. So at that time, Lord Vishnu, he smiles and says, whoever can free the veena from the stone is a better singer. None of them could. So this is where we see that, Lord is showing me how, always take to humility, always take to proper understanding of respecting other Vaishnavas, and not engage in this competitive mindset. Rather, the competition should be, how can we please the Lord with the best of our abilities? And if the Lord is pleased, then we have won, which is the mode Hanumanji has. So this is the mode we should be developing, instead of trying to show that we are better than that speaker, we are better than that singer, we are better than this pujari, we are better than that book distributor. These are all frivolous things. These are just external things. Real thing is here in our heart. What do we have in our heart? And that will give us fearlessness when we take to the shelter of Lord Shri Krishna by following the examples of Bajrang Bali, Hanumanji. Hare Krishna. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, शिला भगवत्पाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गो प्रेमानंदे, हरि हरि बोल. Hare Krishna. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask or comments.
हरे कृष्णा डियर व्यूअर्स. सो आज की श्रीमद् भागवतम क्लास में जीव तत्व प्रभु जी ने हमें बहुत सारे इंसाइट्स दिए, वंडरफुल इंसाइट्स. ग्लोरीज ऑफ डिवोशनल सर्विस. भक्ति इतनी सुपर पोटेंट है, पावरफुल है. वी कैन प्लीज कृष्णा विद भक्ति. तो प्रभु जी ने हमें जो फ्लो चल रहा है श्रीमद् भागवतम का कैंटो 3 में, कर्दम मुनि, देवाहूति और कपिल देव जो भगवान के अवतार हैं, अपनी माता को ग्लोरीज नरेट कर रहे हैं ऑन डिवोशनल सर्विस. और इस पर्टिकुलर क्लास में प्रभु जी ने मेन एसेंस जो है भक्ति का, व्हाई वी नीड टू एंगेज इन भक्ति, हाउ डू वी एंगेज इन भक्ति. और इन सब के साथ में प्रभु जी ने आज हनुमान जयंती है, हनुमान जी की कथाएं भी शेयर की काफ़ी सारी, जिससे हमें बहुत ही ब्यूटीफुल इंसाइट मिलता है कि हनुमान जी हमेशा ईगर थे भगवान की सेवा के लिए. वो पर्सोनिफिकेशन थे भक्ति के, और उनके सामने तो कोई ऑब्स्टिकल्स नहीं स्टैंड कर सकी, उनकी स्ट्रेंथ के कारण ही, बल्कि उनके डिवोशन के कारण. तो हमें लेने चाहिए लेसन्स हनुमान जी की लाइफ से और प्रे करना चाहिए. जैसे कि प्रभु जी ने कहा, स्पेशली इन कोविड टाइम्स, जब इतना फियर है, इतनी एंग्जाइटी है, इतना ग्रीफ है, बहुत कुछ हो रहा है और सब पैनिक कर रहे हैं, टेंस हो रहे हैं. ऐसे में हमें वो सब कुछ करना है जो चीज़ है. एट द सेम टाइम वी हैव टू टेक शेल्टर एट द लोटस फीट ऑफ भगवान. वी हैव टू एंगेज इन भक्ति. तो प्रभु जी, एट दिस टाइम डू यू हैव फ्यू मिनट्स टू आंसर सम क्वेश्चंस. सभी व्यूअर्स से रिक्वेस्ट है, अगर आपके कुछ भी क्वेश्चंस हैं इस टॉपिक से रिलेटेड या स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ से रिलेटेड, प्लीज मेंशन इन कमेंट्स एंड प्रभु जी कैन एड्रेस दोज क्वेश्चंस. Nidhi Gupta ji is writing, today's session was very helpful and informative. Thank you Nidhi ji. बैसाखी जी कह रही हैं, थैंक यू सो मच प्रभु जी.
हरे कृष्णा.
शिशुपाल वैष्णव जी कह रहे हैं दानवत प्रणाम.
हरे कृष्णा.
दानवत साहब को भी. कार्तिक शर्मा जी हरे कृष्णा. गीता देशा जी वॉज ऑल्सो देयर. उनके कमेंट्स अभी दिख नहीं रहे हैं, बट शी वॉज ऑल्सो एक्सप्रेसिंग ग्रेटिट्यूड. सो आई थिंक देर वॉज वन क्वेश्चन बाई वन ऑफ द व्यूअर्स. वो पूछ रहे थे कि वो कुछ क्वेश्चन पूछना चाहते थे, बट इस समय आई एम नॉट सीइंग एनी क्वेश्चंस. प्रभु जी, आई थिंक वी कैन वेट फ्यू सेकेंड्स. Meanwhile, I will just present a question to you so that you can talk about bhakti a little bit more. और फिर हम उस पॉइंट पे चेक करेंगे. अगर किसी के भी कोई क्वेश्चंस नहीं है, we can then end the session. हरे कृष्णा. सो प्रभु जी, कई बार बहुत से डिवोटीज लॉर्ड राम, सीता, हनुमान जी, इनकी आराधना में ज़्यादा इंटरेस्टेड होते हैं दैन टेकिंग टू द वर्शिप ऑफ श्री श्री राधा कृष्णा. तो ऐसे में कुछ छोटा सा अंडरस्टैंडिंग के लिए ऐसा क्या हेल्प मिल सकती है उन्हें कि किसकी वर्शिप करें, और इसमें कोई फियर की बात तो नहीं है अगर कोई श्री श्री राधा कृष्णा जी की चैंटिंग नहीं कर रहे हैं, वर्शिप नहीं कर रहे हैं, वर्सेस राम सीता जी की कर रहे हैं. So what can you say about this? Let me put on the microphone.
चैतन्य चरितामृत में एक बहुत ही प्यारा इंसिडेंट आता है मुरारी गुप्ता का. मुरारी गुप्ता को भगवान, चैतन्य महाप्रभु, ही इज अंतर राधा बाहर कृष्णा. So he is Lord Krishna himself, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but he has appeared in the golden complexion of Radharani and the mood of Radharani as his own devotee. So he is instructing Murari Gupta to take the chanting of the holy name, Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And Murari Gupta all night he is awake. And then in the morning he says that, my dear Lord, I am such a staunch devotee of Lord Ram that I feel like I should give up my body because I cannot take to the shelter of Radha Krishna. So at that time, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he smiles and embraces him and says, no, Murari Gupta, you are an incarnation of Hanumanji. That's why you are so attached. So we are all, our Swarup is to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We all have attraction towards a specific form of Lord, right? One of his incarnations, expansions, planetary expansions. So we are engaged in serving them, right? And so there is no diminution. Rather, the most important हमारे लिए क्या है कि हम भगवान की सेवा करें, हम भगवान का नाम लें. तो जो राम भक्त हैं वो भी इक्वली हैं. द इम्पोर्टेंट इज नॉट कि कौन बड़ा है, रादर एवरीवन शुड अंडरस्टैंड दैट सबसे बड़े भगवान हैं, राइट? And he is the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord and his expansion, Lord Krishna, उनके जो भी expansions है, रामादि मूर्तिषु नियमेन अतिष्ठान, right? So Lord Ram and Lord Varahadev and Lord Nrsimhadev, various incarnations of Lord Krishna are there. And we get attracted to a specific form of the Lord. And all forms are transcendental. And together all forms को हम singular तरीके से बोलते हैं, not different from Lord Shri Krishna. But Lord Krishna is the avatari, we understand. So if we have attraction towards Lord Krishna, that is fine. If we have attraction toward any of incarnation, that is also fine. But because we are all serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, most important is what are we doing when we are attracted to that form of the Lord, right? How are we acting? How are we serving Him? How are we pleasing Him? Because Lord Krishna, when we serve Him, when we please Him, many times people, they open their wallet and they put some money in the dana peti. Lord Krishna doesn't see what you put in the dana peti, He sees what you held back, right? So what are we holding back for our own sense gratification? That is what is telling us how well are we serving. So we should not hold back anything. We should serve the Lord with full heart, with all our abilities to please Lord Shri Krishna, because the very mean of our existence is to engage in devotional service. Hopefully this answers the question that yes, if you are attracted to the form of Lord Ramchandra and Sita Mata, please engage in their devotional service. That will make you great, because Lord is the greatest, and sometimes He allows His devotees like Hanumanji to even become greater than Him. Because when we talk about who went to Lanka and caused havoc in Lanka, we always think of Hanumanji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. So that is very nice insight for all of us to know. हम राम सीता, श्री श्री राम सीता की भी आराधना कर सकते हैं, श्री श्री राधा कृष्णा के भी कर सकते हैं. इट इज़ द एसेंस, द मूड ऑफ भक्ति इन आवर हार्ट, जो भगवान चाहते हैं, जिससे भगवान इम्प्रेस होते हैं. तो अगला क्वेश्चन लेते हैं प्रभु जी. We have two questions. One is by Shishupal ji, another question is by Baisakhi ji. I will first speak Baisakhi ji's question. Since last 3 sessions वो ये question पूछना चाह रही हैं और पूछ रही हैं, प्रभु जी, we have seen and heard that Lord Shiv is always, he has bhasma and snakes on his body. He is Bairagi. Yes. But in case of Lord Krishna, we see many Shringar darshans. We always decorate Bhagwan Kanha in different dresses and jewelries. What is the significance of Shringar for Lord Krishna? So, Prabhuji, do you think you want to address this briefly?
Hare Krishna. So Lord Shiv, his responsibility, again, he is constantly meditating on Lord Sankarshan. That's also very important. So he is attracted to another form of Lord, Sankarshan. And why is he attracted to Sankarshan is also very important, because Sankarshan is the Supreme Personality of Servitor Godhead, or Balaramji. Balaramji jo hai, but Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality of original Godhead, right? He is the original Avatari. And Lord Balaram is his first expansion, but he is expanding in the mood of serving Lord Shri Krishna. So, and from his is the expansion of Sankarshan. And Sankarshan, as we see Ananta Shesh, Sankarshan's expansions, they're constantly serving the Lord. So Lord Shiva wants to serve the Lord. So his presiding deity, he's constantly meditating on Sankarshan. तो Lord Shiva है, वो उनकी सारी activities जो हैं, वो activities are related to destruction. That's why his activities seem to be in the mode of ignorance. But he's always in transcendental mode, because he's a devotee, constantly meditating on the Lord. And everything, yat karoshi yadashnasi, whatever he does, all activities are as an offering to the Lord. He is making this offering. And because he is wandering in Shamshan Ghat, right? Because in the Shamshan Ghat, various kind of offerings are made and they are actually given to Lord Shiva. So since he is wandering in Shamshan Ghat, what happens at the places where different bodies are being burned, the fire, the dust, the ashes, they rise up and come onto the body of Lord Shiva. Yet he is transcendentally situated. He's not looking at his external form. So that's why he doesn't care. But in case of Lord Krishna, he is, when you see in Vrindavan, Lord Krishna, he is being very nicely taken care by Mother Yashoda and the elderly gopis. They're giving him regular bath, right? They're constantly making him very nicely dressed with ornaments, with various kind of jewels, with silken clothes and so forth. And if we look at in Mathura and Dwarka, of course, that's his prabhav, expansion. So Lord, he is appearing as Vasudev Krishna. And again, he is in a very opulent, as prince, he is being very nicely arranged. So he is not like in Lord Shiva's position in Shamshan Ghat, where all that ashes are coming. And Lord Shiva, he is living under a tree, right? So again, there is not enough arrangement as we see. And he is completely in transcendental mood, in meditating on the Lord. And of course, his father, Lord Brahma, gave him the instruction that you should constantly meditate, as we heard earlier in the 3rd canto. So we hear again and again that they are both exalted positions. Vaishnavanam Yatha Shambhu. So again, Acharyas reveal that we'll be benefited when we understand that Lord Shiva is the topmost devotee of Lord Krishna. So he is serving, but he is always meditating on Sankarshan, which is an expansion of Lord Krishna. But they are not different. All are Vishnu Tattvas, all the Swamshas. And Lord Shiva Tattva is not Jiva Tattva. He is also not Vishnu Tattva. He is also an expansion of the Lord. So that is also something very important to understand, that he is not a living entity like us, he is an exalted personality. And when Vishnu Tattva is in contact with Maya, so again his wife is Parvati. So that is where. Hare Krishna. So the question is, why is Lord Shiva always covered in ashes? Because he is constantly going to Shamshan Ghat to get the oblations that have been made in his name. While Lord Krishna, he is always being decorated in such an opulent form because he has been taken care of by devotees, right? So that is the main difference. Hopefully this answers your question. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Baisakhi ji, hopefully this answered your question.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, we have one more question by Shishupal Prabhuji. Let me read out his question. Prabhuji, I have one question. When I chant, I internally speak names of Shiksha Guru. When we take Diksha, we can continue chant of Shiksha Guru's name. I want to understand the Guru Parampara. So, I think इनके 2 parts हैं कि जब ये chanting करते हैं तो शुरू में प्रणति कौन सी बोलनी है, शिक्षा गुरुज को भी प्रणाम करते हैं कि नहीं, और दूसरा इनका क्वेश्चन है गुरु परंपरा को कैसे अंडरस्टैंड करें. तो कैन यू प्लीज ब्रीफली शेयर सम इनसाइट. Let me put on the microphone.
Hare Krishna Shishupalji, very important question. So we can have many Shiksha Gurus instructing spiritual masters, but we can have only one Diksha Guru, one initiating spiritual master in a life. So again, so that is the injunctions as we have heard from the scriptures and also from the Acharyas. So yes, we should respect our Shiksha Guru, our instructing spiritual masters, as much as we are giving, respecting our initiating spiritual master. We should not differentiate between the two. That is also another important lesson that we learn from the Acharyas. So again, and from the scriptures as well, and the sadhus. Sadhu, Guru and Shastra, from these 3 sources we hear. So again, one should not say the Shiksha Guru is lower than the Diksha Guru. No, they are on the equal platform. We are getting knowledge from both so that we are advancing in our spiritual journey. So we should be equally grateful to both, right? So just like we have our Shiksha Guru, I consider, again, Romapad Maharaj, Jayapataka Maharaj, they are my Shiksha Gurus. While I also pay obeisances to my Diksha Guru, His Holiness Bhagavad Pad. So again, we always look from this perspective that they are on the same platform, but we can only have one initiating spiritual master, while we can have many instructing spiritual masters, and we want blessings from all of them. They all help us. So that is a very good thing that you are, paying obeisances to your instructing spiritual masters, and then the initiating spiritual masters, again, they should all be in bona fide sampradaya, they're in bona fide disciplic succession. So there are 4 sampradayas, so they have to be in one of those sampradayas. They cannot just frivolously say, okay, I'm giving you instruction. We have received instruction in our school from teachers, right? They taught us how to read ABC, E, all that language and everything. But then they were our, teachers from a different perspective. They were doing it as a job so that we get the abilities, and their focus was that we get the abilities so that we are able to take care of this body. So that is another aspect. So there are some masters, teachers who are helping us. But then when we get the right consciousness, we use the same language, same facilities, same understanding in devotional service. So again, that is another aspect. So again, those teachers are also respected, but we also see that sometimes people, they pay attention, they give more respect to the elementary school teachers than their college professors. So this is familiarity breeds contempt. Just because there is less age gap, this material body makes us think that our elementary school teachers were more exalted than the professors at college. While we all understand now that the people, folks who were at the professor at the college, they had to work much harder, right, to be in their position than be in the position of an elementary teacher. So again, this is also some frivolous aspects. So we should also understand that there are various teachers that we get yet in our life. We even learn from our kids, right? Here, in this today's lesson, we heard mother is learning from her son, but the son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kapil Dev. And Devahuti, who is the mother, she is learning from her son. So even he is her spiritual master, and is of course the spiritual master of all the worlds of the universe, material and spiritual universes, because he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the 4 paramparas is important, right? Brahma Sampradaya coming from Lord Brahma, Rudra Sampradaya coming from Lord Shiva, Kumar Sampradaya coming from the Chatur Kumar, Sanak, Sanatan, Sanandana and Sanat Kumar, and then Shri Sampradaya coming from Goddess Lakshmi. And all these are, the fountainhead of the Sampradayas, but they are getting this knowledge from Lord Krishna. That is the most important thing. Evam parampara praptam imam rajeshayo viduhu. So again, in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna himself is revealing that this transcendental knowledge is received in parampara. So we have to follow the bona fide disciplic succession. So again, when we look at our spiritual master, we should be looking at our spiritual master. Are they following the disciplic succession or not? And that would make them bona fide spiritual masters. Hare Krishna. Hopefully this answers your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes. We do not see any more questions at this time. शिशुपाल वैष्णव जी, प्रभु जी ने आपके क्वेश्चन के पॉइंट्स एड्रेस किए. होपफुली दिस इज गोइंग टू बेनिफिट मैनी ऑफ अस. तो प्रभु जी, एट दिस पॉइंट आई थिंक वी कैन एंड द सेशन.
कंत्रा श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, शिला प्रभुपाद की जय, शिला भगवत्पाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, निताय गो प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. ओम तत्सत.